When you begin a spiritual journey, it often doesn't announce itself with fireworks or grand signs. Instead, it begins with a quiet whisper, a subtle nudge deep within your soul. Have you ever felt that? A moment where the world, for just a fleeting second, felt different, like it was calling you to something greater. This is where the path of the chosen begins. God doesn't scream, He whispers in the language of your heart. The first divine message you may receive is this: you are more than what you think you are. This is the seed of awakening. For so long, you've likely identified with the roles society has given you: your name, your job, your labels. But let me ask you this: who are you beneath all of that? Who are you when you strip away the masks you wear for the world? This question is not meant to be answered quickly. It's an invitation to unravel the layers of yourself, to sit in the stillness and listen. Because in that stillness, you'll begin to hear God's voice.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lessons.
The journey of the chosen one isn't about finding something external. It's about remembering who you've always been. It's about stepping into alignment with your soul's purpose, a purpose that has been calling to you all along. But here's the thing: the first step is often the hardest. Why? Because awakening to this truth often requires you to confront the illusions you've been living in. And this brings us to the second divine message: let go of what no longer serves you. On this journey, you'll begin to notice that certain things, habits, relationships, even thoughts feel heavy. They no longer resonate with the person you're becoming. This is not a coincidence. God is preparing you for transformation, and part of that transformation means releasing what holds you back. But letting go isn't easy, is it? Sometimes the things we cling to the most are the very things that are hurting us. Why do we do that? Why is it so hard to release something we know is no longer good for us? The answer lies in fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of change, fear of stepping into the unknown territory of your soul's potential. But here's the truth: God is not asking you to let go to punish you. He's asking you to let go so He can give you something greater. It's like holding on to a small pebble when He's trying to hand you a diamond. Can you trust Him enough to release your grip? As you move further along the path, the third divine message begins to emerge, and this one is profound. You are never alone. The spiritual journey can feel isolating at times. You might find yourself questioning everything: your beliefs, your relationships, even your sense of reality. But in those moments of doubt, remember this: God walks with you. Even when you feel lost, even when you feel like you're wandering in the wilderness with no direction, He is there. Look around you. The signs of His presence are everywhere. The synchronicities you experience, the moments of peace that wash over you unexpectedly, the people who show up in your life at just the right time, these are not coincidences. These are messages, reminders that you are being guided. But here's the catch: you have to be willing to see them. How often do we overlook the miracles in our lives because we're too busy looking for something grand? What if the miracle is in the small things: the smile of a stranger, the warmth of the sun on your face, the stillness of a quiet morning? God speaks to us in the language of everyday life. The question is, are you listening? Are you listening? Are you paying attention? The spiritual journey is not a straight path of light and joy. It is also a confrontation with the darkness within. If you've come this far, then you already know awakening is not just about discovering divine truths, it's about facing the truths you've buried deep inside yourself. And here comes the fourth divine message. The storm is not here to destroy you, it's here to cleanse you. Let's pause for a moment. What are the storms in your life right now? Is it pain from the past, unresolved trauma, fear of the future, or perhaps a lingering sense of emptiness that you can't quite explain? These storms don't come to punish you. They come to shake you awake. They come to strip away the illusions, the false identities, the lies you've told yourself about who you are. But let's be honest, storms are terrifying, aren't they? When you're in the thick of it, it can feel like your entire world is falling apart. And yet, this is where the greatest transformation happens. Here's a question for you. What if the pain you're feeling is a sign of your soul's evolution? What if it's God's way of breaking you open so you can finally release what no longer serves you? The spiritual journey isn't about avoiding pain, it's about learning to walk through it with grace. It's about trusting that, no matter how dark the night may seem, the dawn is always on the horizon. But this requires faith. It requires surrender. And this leads us to the fifth divine message. Surrender is not defeat, it is trust in the divine plan. You see, we often mistake surrender for weakness. We think that letting go means giving up. But in reality, surrender is one of the most powerful acts of faith you can make. It's saying, I don't have all the answers, but I trust that God does. I trust that everything happening in my life right now is leading me to where I'm meant to be, but trust isn't easy, is it? Especially when life feels chaotic. Especially when you're faced with uncertainty. And yet, this is where your faith is tested. Can you trust God even when you can't see the path ahead? Can you trust that the storm you're in is not the end of your story, but the beginning of a new chapter? Here's something to reflect on. The caterpillar has no idea what's happening when it enters the cocoon. To the caterpillar, it must feel like the end of the world. Its body is dissolving, everything it once knew is falling apart. And yet, this destruction is necessary for the transformation into a butterfly. What if your storm is your cocoon? What if the discomfort you're feeling is the process of becoming something greater than you ever imagined? But let's talk about the hardest part of the storm, the shadows. On this journey, you will be asked to face parts of yourself that you've been running from: your fears, your insecurities, your past mistakes. This is what spiritual teachers call shadow work, and it's not easy, it's not glamorous, but it is essential. Because here's the truth: you cannot step into the light until you've made peace with your darkness. Ask yourself this: what parts of yourself are you afraid to face? What truths are you avoiding? The spiritual journey isn't about pretending to be perfect. It's about embracing your imperfections. It's about realizing that even your shadows have something to teach you. They hold the keys to your growth, your healing, your liberation. But how do you face your shadows without being consumed by them? The answer lies in compassion. This is the sixth gift of God on your journey. Though it often comes disguised as a challenge, learn to love yourself, even when it's hard. Think about it. How often do we judge ourselves for our mistakes, our failures, our weaknesses? How often do we speak to ourselves with harshness instead of kindness? But here's the thing: God sees you differently. He doesn't see your flaws as something to be ashamed of. He sees them as part of your humanity, part of your journey. And until you learn to see yourself through His eyes, you will continue to carry the burden of guilt and shame. So, start small. The next time you catch yourself being self-critical, pause. Ask yourself, would I speak to a friend this way? Would I speak to a child this way? Why, then, do I speak to myself this way? You are worthy of love not because you are perfect, but because you are you. And this is one of the greatest truths you will uncover on your spiritual journey, that love, real love, starts within. As you begin to integrate these lessons, something remarkable happens. The storm begins to calm. The shadows lose their power, and you start to see the light breaking through the clouds. This is where the real magic happens. This is where transformation begins. But let me warn you, the journey doesn't end here. In fact, it's just the beginning. Because once you've faced your shadows, once you've learned to love yourself, you are called to something even greater. You are called to step fully into your purpose. And this is where the path of the chosen one takes its most profound turn. When the storm has passed, when the shadows have been faced, and when you've begun to love yourself as God loves you, something extraordinary happens. You awaken to your true purpose. The spiritual journey is not just about healing yourself, it's about stepping into the sacred role you were always meant to play. And this brings us to the seventh divine message on your path. You were chosen for a reason. Let that sink in for a moment. You were not born into this world by accident. Your struggles, your triumphs, your pain, your joy, all of it has been preparing you for something greater. But here's the question: are you ready to step into it? Are you ready to embrace the divine calling that has been placed on your life? Because make no mistake, being chosen one is not a privilege, it's a responsibility. You see, the world is in desperate need of light. Look around you. How often do we see people consumed by fear, anger, division, and despair? And yet, here you are. You've walked through the fire. You've faced your shadows. You've begun to hear the whispers of God guiding you. This is not a coincidence. This is preparation. God has chosen you to be a beacon of light in the darkness, a vessel through which His love and wisdom can flow into the world. But here's the truth: stepping into your purpose requires courage. It requires you to let go of the small self, the part of you that clings to comfort, approval, and certainty, and embrace the vastness of who you really are. This is the eighth message you'll receive on your journey. Your purpose is bigger than you. Think about that for a moment. Your purpose is not just about you. It's about the lives you are meant to touch, the hearts you are meant to touch, the hearts you are meant to heal, the difference you are meant to make. But here's the paradox: in order to serve others, you must first fill yourself. You cannot pour from an empty cup. This is why self-love and self-care are not selfish, they are essential. You must nourish your soul so that you can nourish others. So ask yourself this: what lights you up? What makes your soul come alive? Because this is often where your purpose lies. God doesn't call you to something that feels like a burden. He calls you to something that feels like freedom. But don't confuse this with ease. Your purpose will challenge you. It will stretch you. It will push you to grow in ways you never thought possible. But it will also fulfill you in ways nothing else can. And here's the ninth divine message: the world needs your unique light. No one else can do what you were created to do. No one else has your exact combination of gifts, experiences, and perspectives. You might think, who am I to make a difference? I'm just one person, but let me ask you this: have you ever been inspired by one person? Have you ever had a conversation, read a book, or seen a video that shifted your entire perspective? That's the power of one person. That's the power of you. But stepping into your purpose doesn't mean you have to have it all figured out. It doesn't mean you have to be perfect. In fact, the 10th divine message is this: God works through your imperfections. The cracks in your soul are where His light shines through. The experiences you once thought made you unworthy are the very experiences that make you relatable, compassionate, and wise. So stop waiting to be ready. You'll never feel fully ready. The time to begin is now. As you begin to live in alignment with your purpose, something remarkable happens. You start to feel a sense of flow, a sense of grace. Doors open where there were once walls. Opportunities arise that feel divinely orchestrated. This is not a coincidence. This is what happens when you align yourself with God's plan. But here's the thing, even in this state of alignment, challenges will still arise. And this is where the 11th divine message comes in. Every challenge is an opportunity to deepen your faith. Let me ask you this: how do you respond when life gets hard? Do you retreat into fear, or do you lean into faith? The difference between those who thrive on their spiritual journey and those who falter is not the absence of challenges, it's the presence of faith. Faith that God is working in your favor, even when it doesn't feel like it. Faith that every setback is a setup for something greater. Faith that, no matter what happens, you are being guided. But here's the final, and perhaps the most profound, divine message you will receive on your journey: you are a channel for God's love. This is the ultimate purpose of the chosen ones. It's not about achieving some grand external goal. It's about becoming a vessel through which God's love can flow into the world. It's about living in such a way that others see the divine through you, not because you preach it, but because you embody it. Think about the people who have inspired you the most. Chances are, it wasn't their words but their presence that touched you. Their kindness, their authenticity, their light, it awakened something in you. This is what it means to be a chosen one. It means living in alignment with your soul, so that your very presence becomes a blessing to others. But here's the question: are you willing to surrender to this calling? Are you willing to let go of the small self and step into the vast, beautiful unknown of God's plan? Because this is where the journey truly begins. It's not about reaching a destination. It's about becoming who you were always meant to be. So as we close, I want to leave you with this thought: the world is waiting for your light. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be willing. Willing to listen, willing to grow, willing to trust. Because when you align yourself with God's plan, you don't just transform your own life, you transform the lives of everyone you touch. And that, my friend, is the true power of being chosen. Now, the question is, how will you answer the call? The journey of the chosen one is not a destination, but a continuous unfolding, a sacred dance between your soul and the divine plan. As you step into this calling, you'll realize that every moment, every decision, every breath becomes an opportunity to embody the messages you've received. But the path doesn't stop here. In fact, the deeper you go, the more expansive the journey becomes, and with it, the responsibility to carry the light you've discovered into the world. Now, as we continue, let me ask you something deeply personal. What will you do with this gift of awakening? Because understanding that you are chosen is not enough. Knowing that you are a vessel for God's love is not enough. The real question is, how will you live it? How will you integrate it into the fabric of your life, your relationships, your work, and your presence in the world? This is where the true work begins. And here's the 12th divine message: awakening is meaningless without action. A spiritual journey that stays within you, locked in your mind or your heart, is incomplete. You were not chosen to sit in isolation with your revelations. You were chosen to move, to act, to create, and to serve. The divine truths you've uncovered must be lived. They must flow through you into the world, like a river nourishing everything it touches. But here's the challenge: living as a chosen one in a world that often resists light and truth can feel overwhelming. Not everyone will understand you. Not everyone will support you. Some will question your path, and others will even try to pull you back into the old patterns you've worked so hard to break free from. This is why the spiritual journey requires not just faith, but courage. And this leads us to the 13th divine message: your light will challenge others, but shine anyway. Think of a candle in a dark room. Its presence illuminates everything, revealing both the beauty and the mess. Some people will welcome this light. They'll be drawn to it, inspired by it. But others may feel uncomfortable. They may resist your light because it forces them to confront their own shadows. This is not a reflection of you, it's a reflection of where they are on their own journey. So what do? You hold steady. You let your light shine, not out of ego, but out of love. You become a quiet reminder, a living example of what is possible when someone aligns with their soul and God's plan. And in doing so, you give others permission to do the same. But remember, this is not about convincing or converting anyone. It's about being so deeply rooted in your truth that your very presence becomes an invitation for others to awaken to their own. Here's another question for you. What does it mean to live a life of alignment? This is something you'll need to explore deeply on your journey. Alignment doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean you'll never make mistakes or face challenges. What it means is living in integrity with your soul's truth. It means making choices that honor who you are at your core. It means showing up authentically, even when it's hard. But let's get practical for a moment. How do you live in alignment in a world that often pulls you in the opposite direction? How do you stay connected to your purpose when everyday life feels chaotic? The answer lies in the 4 pillars of spiritual integration: presence, gratitude, service, and trust. Presence is about being fully in the moment. It's about slowing down enough to hear God's whispers in your heart and see His signs in your life. This can be as simple as starting your day with a few minutes of stillness, taking a deep breath when you feel overwhelmed, or truly listening when someone speaks to you. Presence is where you meet the divine. Gratitude is the practice of recognizing the blessings in your life, even in the midst of challenges. It's easy to be grateful when things are going well, but the real power of gratitude comes when you can find it in the storm. What are you grateful for right now? What small miracles have you overlooked today? Gratitude shifts your focus from lack to abundance, reminding you that even in your hardest moments, you are held. Service is where your purpose comes to life. It's about using your gifts, your voice, your presence to uplift others. But here's the key: service doesn't have to be grand. It can be as simple as offering a kind word, lending a listening ear, or sharing your story. Service isn't about what you do, it's about the love and intention behind it. When you serve from a place of authenticity, you become a channel for God's love. And finally, trust is the foundation that holds it all together. Trust that you are being guided. Trust that even when the path feels unclear, God is leading you exactly where you're meant to be. Trust that your journey, with all its twists and turns, is unfolding in divine perfection. But trust is not passive, it's active surrender. It's choosing faith over fear, again and again. As you integrate these pillars into your life, you'll notice something extraordinary. The more aligned you become, the more aligned the world around you becomes. Opportunities that once felt out of reach will begin to flow to you. Relationships will deepen. Your sense of peace and purpose will grow. And you'll realize that living as a chosen one is not about achieving some external goal. It's about becoming a reflection of God's love in every moment. And here's the 14th and final divine message. Your journey is the message you don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to be perfect. You don't even need to know exactly where you're going. All you need to do is keep walking, keep growing, keep trusting. Because your journey, with all its beauty and messiness, is the message that will inspire others. It's not about what you say, it's about who you are. So as we close, I want to leave you with one final question. What legacy will your light leave in this world? Not a legacy of fame or wealth, but a legacy of love, of truth, of transformation. Because in the end, this is what it means to be chosen. It means living in such a way that your presence becomes a blessing, your actions become a prayer, and your life becomes a testament to the infinite love of God. Now the choice is yours. How will you answer the call? How will you carry these messages forward? Remember, you were chosen for a reason, and the world is waiting for your light. Step boldly into your purpose. Shine unapologetically. And trust that, no matter what, you are exactly where you are meant to be.